Well, this is a little different than being in my living room practicing to my cat. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to my Wichita support team. We are 100 strong this week. You guys are the heroes of Avid's success in Wichita, so I thank you. And some of you don't think you had a choice to be here. Be sure you check in with Stacy. We are taking roll at the end. I also want to thank 4 of our high school principals who drove down specifically to support me today. Joel, Leroy, Ron, and Sherman, I love you guys. And please know that my first act when I get back to Wichita will be to increase your budgets and your teacher allocation. Thanks. My journey with Avid actually began long before I even knew of the program. I was in my second year as an assistant principal at a high school in Wichita. My principal informed me in June that he would be gone on vacation the first 2 days of Teacher Report Week, the following August. He chose me to present the yearly district initiative to the faculty for the 1996-1997 school year. Wow, was I special or what? Now, most of you out there are realizing much quicker today than I realized back then that although it might appear this was the opportunity of a lifetime, it was actually a colossal setup. But no, I thought I was going to be Moses leading the masses out of the wilderness. I got my little faculty committee together, we went to summer training, and the big day in August finally arrived. I practiced my speech and had all my audio visuals ready. Now back then, audio visuals equaled overhead transparencies. But I can assure you they were outstanding. Throughout my presentation, I was feeling good and believed the faculty would charge right out motivated for a new year. At the end, one of the staff members did stand up and turned around to the faculty. And instead of saying, "Is this not the best presentation of a district initiative you have ever heard?" Oh no. She turned around and she said, "Do not worry, fellow faculty members. This too will pass." Of course, at the time, I was devastated. But years later, I realized she was simply personifying the monster that we have created at all levels in education, but mostly at the district level. In our efforts to leave no child behind, we're trying to find the silver bullet or program that will bring us to the promised land of adequate yearly progress. We fail to realize that nothing will work if it is not implemented and supported within the context of a strong teacher-student relationship. I tell you this story to establish a contrast. Thank you. Just let me know if I need to pause more for the applause. Just raise your hand. Thank you. Okay. I tell you this story to establish a contrast to what my experience has been with Avid. I've spoken to many teachers and administrators through the years about Avid implementation, and I have never once heard, "This too will pass." Why? Quite simply, Avid gets it. Avid is not something we do to students and teachers. Avid is something we do with students and teachers. Avid builds a support system all centered around the most important aspect and often the most forgotten aspect of education when implementing new initiatives, the student and teacher relationship. And we all know this relationship directly impacts instruction. You see, Avid understands that we have to address and support the context in which we are implementing the structure. Avid brings the structure of rigorous curriculum, college readiness, skills, and strong professional development together with the context of human relationships. This combination establishes a system that I guarantee you, if the 11 essentials are non-negotiables, will change both your schools and the individual lives of the students and adults walking your halls. How can I guarantee this? Because I have seen it happen over and over through my own journey with Avid, and it has personally changed my own life. Today, I would like to spend a few minutes sharing with you from my journey how I believe you can build a healthy Avid system that supports the teacher-student relationship. The first phase of my journey began just like many of your journeys will begin this week. I was a principal at Pleasant Valley Middle School in Wichita and arrived at the Atlanta Institute anxious to see what Avid was all about. Of course, I was your typical administrator. I had 3 basic questions I wanted answered and really didn't understand why it was going to take 4 days of training to answer them. My questions were, how much is this going to cost? How do I select my kids? And when does my curriculum arrive? Boy, was I in for a big surprise. I quickly realized, just as many of you will this week, that the Summer Institute experience is so much more than gaining the facts and details. This week is about building the foundation of the Avid system, the site team. Back to my experience in Atlanta. The time spent in my strand in the morning helped me to understand what my specific role would be as the building principal. The afternoon site team activities were key in developing the crucial relationships and helping us understand how all of our roles of the site team would fit together as we built the foundation of the Avid implementation. I encourage all of you in this room to be engaged and intentional this week in allowing your site team relationships to begin to grow or develop, depending on where you are in the process of Avid implementation. I absolutely believe that if your site team is weak, so too will your Avid system be weak. Without fail, when we have a school struggling with Avid in Wichita, we can always trace it back to a struggling site team. Another observation from my experience in working with schools has shown that if there is a weak link in the site team, it is often the administrator. Now, I'm one of them, so I can say that. It is not because we are horrible people, but our worlds are crazy busy, and it is easy to get distracted. So administrators, let's put up our cell phones this week, and let's engage. Let's face it, none of us have any money, so we really aren't hiring anybody. And administrators, we should all be in that lull between the drama of cheerleader tryouts and the drama of cheerleading camp. I know the administrators are getting a little bit more chuckle out of that. Administrators, you are key to modeling strong relationships with your site team, and your engagement in the process is imperative. So after my first summer institute, I spent the next year working with my site team at Pleasant Valley in planning our Avid implementation. I never had the opportunity to see the planning all the way through because I was moved to North High School the next year. North was a school in crisis with a high dropout rate and a low graduation rate. But in the midst of chaos, I found an oasis with the Avid site team. North was in their second year of implementation and had built a tremendous foundation with their site team. I quickly realized that my best plan of action as their principal was to simply stay out of their way, but offer support when called upon. Of course, I also was very clearly told to me that I was to raise my hand before speaking. In the process of working with these wonderful people, I entered the second phase of my journey in understanding of Avid as a system. If the foundation of Avid is the site team, the inner workings of the system is the Avid elective classroom. More specifically, the Avid teacher's relationship with the Avid students. I came to this realization while watching the A team of Avid elective teachers, Stacy Valdez, Reagan McGinnis, Jeff Friend, and Eric Filippi, who are all here this week as staff developers. I observed these awesome teachers putting in tireless hours to support the academic and social struggles of their Avid students, advocating for their Avid students, and loving their Avid students. Those of you who are here today that are Avid elective teachers, God bless you for your passion and your hard work. I believe it is probably the hardest work you will ever do, but at the same time, it will be some of the most rewarding work too. You see, as adults, we tend to be more about the structure. We're all going to leave here this week loving ourselves some Cornell notes and the binder, getting those kids organized. However, the kids will hate them. Right, kids? Yeah. Because we all know students are more about context, building those relationships. And it is the Avid teacher, along with the support of the site team, who will be in the front line of the battle, bringing all of this together. I used to call it the Binder Bailout. The parent calls would start not too long after the first few binder checks. I mostly heard how the binder was destroying the self-esteem and the life of their child. I once had a parent tell me that Cornell notes distracted her daughter from being able to pay attention to the teacher. Never could figure that out. So this is the reason why I call the Avid classroom the inner workings, because this is where the Avid student is developed, and more importantly, where the Avid family is established. The best way to illustrate this is through Brenda's story. I first met Brenda when she was an 8th grade student at Pleasant Valley Middle School when I was the principal. Brenda was an office proctor, and I often felt that if I had to call in sick, I could just say, hey, let Brenda be in charge. The problem was Brenda was a fighter, and I finally had to remove her as a proctor. And I said, Brenda, I love you, but I can't have you greeting parents at the counter with a black eye and busted lip. Or I can't have you going into classrooms with a pass and challenging a student to a fight. But luckily, at the end of her 8th grade year at Pleasant Valley, Brenda was accepted into the first Avid classroom at North High School. Now, fast forward several years. We recently celebrated the retirement of the grandmother of Wichita Avid, Stacy Valdez. And here was Brenda, now a grown lady, married with 2 kids and ready to enter her own career as a teacher. She attended the reception and she spoke to Stacy through tears and talked about how her own Avid journey was influenced. Brenda survived being shot in a drive-by and being a teen mom. She credited Stacy, her Avid elective teacher, and her Avid family as the key support system to successfully graduating high school with honors. Not only did she graduate with honors, but she was one of North High's first Dell Scholars. Brenda's story illustrates that Avid's key to success is to put the right teachers in those Avid elective classrooms and then support them. The third phase of my journey began in my last year as principal of North and continues to this day. This phase is my realization of the fruits of the Avid system. Now, I'm sure many of you are expecting me to talk about data as one of the fruits. Do not get me wrong. Data is important. And our Avid students in Wichita consistently score 10 percentage points higher on state assessments, and our Hispanic male graduation rate has improved twofold. But to say that data points are the key fruit of the Avid system is to diminish the systemic strength of Avid that I have just spent the last several minutes praising. No, my experiences have led me to declare that there are 2 key fruits of the Avid system. First, the school-wide impact. Avid student relationships with other students. Avid teachers' relationships with other teachers. And Avid student relationships with other teachers. All of these relationships have a huge impact on Avid going school-wide to completely change the culture of your school to one of college readiness and support. AP teachers are no longer kicking kids out of their classes because they didn't do their summer reading. Thank you. I'm sure those are some of the AP teachers. Cornell notes are being used in all classrooms. All teachers are using Avid strategies and becoming more facilitative in their instruction, and colleges are literally knocking down your doors to get to those Avid students. Many of you here in this room are here for your second or third time, and your strands and site teams are going to begin to challenge you to take Avid school-wide at your sites. I can proudly stand before you and testify to the changing power of Avid school-wide. Remember North High, the school in chaos, when Avid was first implemented? North is now an Avid national demonstration site. Their graduation rate has risen from 49% to 81%. Their minority enrollment in honor and AP classes has soared from 8% to over 55%. And yeah. And this last spring, they gave over 395 AP tests, which was higher than any other high schools in Wichita, of which there are 10. And one of those is an IB school. So please, fight through the early struggles of establishing your Avid system so you can truly transform your schools. The second key fruit, and the most powerful of the Avid system, of course, are the Avid students. You will see this in abundance throughout the week. Avid students will visit your strands and tell of their academic success. All of you need to return to this room for the luncheons, where you will hear powerful stories of triumph from Avid students. Now, please understand, these Avid students do not just walk into a phone booth and come out articulate, driven, and passionate students, right? They are the direct result of a healthy Avid system that has nurtured and challenged them. And they are the one and only reason we are and should be gathered here today. I would like to close with one last piece of my journey. This particular relationship has been and will continue to be at the heart of my journey. Israel was a student I met early in my career as an administrator, once again before Avid was on my radar. Israel was one of those students you just love. Cute as a button, ornery, and so smart. He would definitely have been an Avid student. Even as an 8th grade tough guy, he would always give out hugs and was so proud and worked hard to make good grades. In the middle of his 8th grade year, Israel was home one evening and witnessed his father kill his mother in an angry rage. Israel was never the same. He became angry, and despite all of our efforts, we eventually lost him to the streets. Several years later, I received an unusual letter with a return address of the El Dorado Correctional Facility. My heart sank when I realized the letter was from Israel. I opened the letter, and I remember it well. Dear Miss Wren, I just wanted to write and thank you for caring about me and supporting me through some tough times. I also want to apologize for not listening to you. I have made a real mess of my life. I am presently doing time for armed robbery, but things are not all bad. I am working hard to get my release because I have a wife and son waiting for me, and I want to make my son proud. Despite my tears, I realized that Israel had finally found that support system with his wife and son that he so desperately needed earlier in his life. At the same time, a feeling of what if haunted me. What if Avid could have been a reality for Israel? Yes, it is the Avid student and potential Avid students that bring us all together today. But hopefully it will be the Israels in all of our lives that spark the passion to become better teachers, coordinators, and administrators. Our students deserve nothing less. Thank you and have a great week.